report on today's economic developments in a moment.
Welcome to Independence Hall. You're now standing in the most historic room in the United States. This is the room where the country was born. The delegates...
In 1792, just 16 years after our country's birth, Insurance Company of North America was born in this very same place, conceived by the same kind of men who sat here in 1776. To them, an insurance policy wasn't just a piece of paper full of legal promises. It was a commitment to band together to meet the needs of a new country and its people, to give people someone to turn to, which was the kind of idea men had in mind when they founded this country. Since that time, that commitment, that attitude has remained constant at INA, a feeling that their business is not just selling insurance, but providing someone to turn to. Insurance Company of North America, where an insurance policy is more than just a piece of paper since 1792.
The Labor Department announced today that the cost of living rose 0.7% last month, led by sharp increases in food and fuel prices. The figures were gathered before the administration's price freeze went into effect on June 13th. Now that the freeze is over, food prices have already begun moving up, and on this, the second day of Phase 4, some items have posted noticeable gains. ABC's Ann Medina takes a look at what Phase 4 has to do with the price of eggs.
As the story went, it was the goose that laid the golden egg. But Phase 4 may be changing that. Chicken eggs may become the golden ones. In one day, the wholesale price of eggs in the East has gone up 10 cents a dozen. Similar increases are reported all over the country. It will keep going up, some poultry dealers say, until it reaches $1 a dozen or more. The problem is one of egg supply. July and August have always been low supply months, but during the freeze, farmers had been killing off chickens rather than feeding them high-cost grain. Some farmers got out of the egg business altogether. Now there are fewer chickens than ever, and fewer chickens means fewer eggs. The farmers themselves, dealers say, will get most of the price increase, and prices for eggs will probably stay up through Easter of next year.
Now, you must remember, in fairness, which I think sometimes city folks forget, that you are, when you buy a dozen large eggs, you're getting a pound and a half of high-protein food. Now, what can you buy in protein nowadays, even if you might say dog food, that's any cheaper?
Certainly eggs taste better than dog food, but if housewives keep on buying eggs the way they have been, making the demand high when the supply is low, they won't be cheaper. Ann Medina, ABC News, New York.
On the New York Stock Exchange today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed up more than 4 points in a fifth day of rising prices. Standard & Poor's 500 stock average was up 0.59.
Well, when I was pregnant, your father did my floor.
Oh, Mom, with Step Saver and a damp mop, it's easy now.
Will a mop and shine get this up?
Johnson's new Step Saver will. It has self-stripping action. A new coat dissolves its old coat, loosens the dirt. Even black heel marks, I just mop them away. Self-stripping Step Saver means deep cleaning, the end of buildup, and a nice shine.
Self-stripping, that's a real Step Saver.
I, Roch Pierre, will lead you to the gates of the goodies. En garde!
Magnifique!
Très bien! We have arrived!
So has the raid, Pierre.
Raid!
Raid House and Garden Bug Killer. Indoors or outdoors, Raid hunts bugs down like radar and kills them dead. Get Raid.
Denture wearers, wake up. That's Polident tablets with cleaning power like 1,000,000 tiny scrub brushes, scrubbing away at film, odor, even stubborn stains between teeth. They don't stop till dentures are clean, odor-free. Try Polident tablets or economical powder. Polident cleans like 1,000,000 tiny scrub brushes.
Great morning.
Great waffles.
Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Start right with Total.
Start eating right and watching your weight with Total.
Each delicious ounce gives you 100% of the minimum daily adult requirement of vitamins and iron.
Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Start it right with Total.
In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 2 days ago, FBI agents shot to death a young black Muslim. They had come to arrest him on charges of deserting the Army. He resisted. Today, the FBI admitted they had shot the wrong man. Richard Angelico of WVUE in New Orleans has details.
The agents had come to arrest Milton Leon Scott as an Army deserter. Scott insisted he had never been in the Army, and that's when the scuffle started that led to Scott's death. The next day, WVUE-TV reported the FBI had killed the wrong man, that employment records and other documents provided by a black Muslim minister proved Scott had been in Baton Rouge when Army officials claimed he was at Fort Ord, California. Today, the FBI admitted the error, saying the man they were looking for is now in San Quentin prison and had enlisted and deserted using Scott's name and background information. They called the shooting terrible and tragic, but insisted it was justified.
To your questions, when he attacked the agents, this then brought it into the realm of another federal violation, assaulting a federal officer. Certainly the restraint would have been used and does and is utilized to restrain an individual. But he openly attacked the agents, and as a recourse then in the defense of themselves, he was shot.
The Scott home is quiet and deserted today. Mrs. Scott and her small daughter Adrienne are staying with friends. They say she is still much too upset to talk about her husband's death or the incidents that led up to the shooting itself. Richard Angelico, WVUE-TV in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Hijackers today took control of a Japan Airlines 747 shortly after it took off from Amsterdam and flew it to the Middle East. In a series of contacts with European control towers, the hijackers said they represent what they called the Palestinian end of the Japanese Red Army. The hijackers also said they plan to demand the release of Kozo Okamoto, the lone survivor of the suicide squad that shot up Tel Aviv's airport 14 months ago. The plane had 145 persons on board. Its original destination was Tokyo.
Vicky Borsett, what do you think of the taste of Listerine?
It tastes brutal. I hate it. Yeah, she can dish it out, but she can't take it. What do you mean? I use it. I got a lot of respect for this stuff. I might hate the taste, but I love what it does. Kills germs that can cause bad breath. And after I hang up my skates, I'm ready to let down my hair.
Listerine Antiseptic. It's got the taste people hate. And now it comes in a decorative apothecary bottle that you'll love.
The 20 cents a slice heartburn. The $12 plus parts sour stomach. The 15 cents a cup indigestion.
The priceless stomach acid quencher, Rolaids, the medicine in a roll that consumes 47 times its weight in excess stomach acid. Take the excess stomach acid quencher, Rolaids.
In other news, a House Senate Conference Committee today reached agreement on a new $19 billion federal aid to highways bill. The legislation would allow some highway trust funds to be spent for mass transit. The Senate voted overwhelmingly today to forbid the president from waging an undeclared war for more than 30 days without the consent of Congress. The House passed a similar measure on Wednesday. The bills now go to a House Senate Conference Committee, but face almost certain veto by the president. Middle Eastern politics, which often are confusing, took another confusing turn today. The Middle East News Agency in Cairo reported that Libya's ruler, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, has resigned some or all of his posts in the interests of a merger between Egypt and Libya. Gaddafi and Egyptian President Sadat have held talks aimed at such a merger. Gaddafi has insisted it become effective by September 1st. Sadat wants a delay. Several thousand Libyans are marching on Cairo to pressure for union. Today, the Egyptians blew up a section of the main highway to Cairo to discourage the Libyan march. The French are expected to touch off the controversial nuclear explosion in the South Pacific this weekend, in spite of international as well as domestic protests. Today, a New Zealand frigate named the Otago, manned by protesters, moved closer to the blast site under French surveillance. ABC's Jerry King narrates this report.
The Otago is keeping outside the 12-mile limit around Mururoa, but inside the 72-mile area from which France has banned all shipping. The frigate is regularly watched by French planes and ships, as it in turn watches for the first explosion. On board the Otago is an all-volunteer crew, including New Zealand's official representative, Fraser Coleman. He was asked if the protests will stop the tests.
Well, whether it will stop it or not remains to be seen, but the whole exercise has certainly focused worldwide attention on how New Zealand feels and the official view of the government.
Would it be true to say then this is really a public relations exercise?
Very much so. I think if we're going to convince the French and other nations to discontinue nuclear testing, public opinion will be one of the strongest weapons we can have in this respect.
The close surveillance of the Otago prompted speculation the first test in the series was imminent. But apparently bad weather and suspected trouble with the bomb-carrying apparatus has caused postponement so far. Jerry King, ABC News.
For the Romantics, we are able to report that Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton were reunited today in Rome after a month's separation. Elizabeth and Richard, we're told, quarreled over his heavy drinking. Our Rome correspondent advises us that Mr. Burton now is on the wagon. I'll have tonight's comment on something else in a moment.
The world looks to Wall Street for good investments, so we brought one here to show you. The Buick LeSabre. It's the old buy low, sell high idea. It's a full-size car with a 350 cubic inch V8 engine, automatic transmission, power steering, and power front disc brakes, all standard. There are dividends available, like a vinyl roof, steel road wheels, white wall tires, and an AM radio. The manufacturer's suggested retail price is $44,5205. And even though that doesn't include state and local taxes and dealer destination charges, it sure is buying low. The selling high is in LeSabre's great resale value. Invest in one soon at your Buick dealer.
If I were going to lead a crusade for a constitutional amendment, I think it would be a simple one-liner. Article 30, persons with grievances, whether foreign or domestic, are prohibited from dramatizing them at the expense of the residents and workers of New York City. What brought this to mind was the picture I have of what it must have been like coming into New York today if you tried to take the Lincoln Tunnel. That was where members of the union representing the policemen who worked for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey decided to stage a job action. They drove 50 or so cars slowly into the tunnel, giving the attendants either $100 bills or 100 pennies, and then stalling in the heat. In a little while, private cars and buses were backed up to Secaucus in a muddy 80 degrees. The thing is, the 2 million or so people who come into Manhattan every day for what is laughingly called work are lucky to make it when everything goes right. On the best of days, with cool, dry air and a good astrological picture, some unfortunate is always breaking down on the Cross Bronx or the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. Given any additional problem on the roads or on the trains, the whole atmosphere quickly becomes suicidal. I wasn't involved in this morning's Gethsemane, but I remember the day the drawbridge operators demonstrated the rights of organized labor by leaving all the bridges up. And I won't bring up all the things I remember about the New Haven Railroad because I hate to cry on camera. The thing is, fellow Americans, we may not be much of a megalopolis, but we are the only megalopolis you've got. And with devaluation, you can't afford to build another one. So, since we are just barely making it, let's stage the protest somewhere else. In Des Moines, maybe, where you don't have a 70-minute trip involving 2 bridges and a tunnel to get to work. Or Los Angeles, where nobody notices if you are an hour late at your desk. New York has enough problems. That's tonight's news and a comment. I'll be in Africa next week to report on the drought. Howard K. Smith will be back from vacation early in the week. I'm Harry Reasoner. Good night.
This has been the ABC Evening News with Howard K. Smith and Harry Reasoner, Monday through Friday in color. This has been a presentation of ABC News.